What's going on, guys? This is going to be a Tottenham Hotspur player tier list of how the players have done this season, how well they've performed, whether they have been, important to the season, if you like, whether they made a real difference, and yeah, so if you do enjoy the video, please drop a like and subscribe, share this video with your mates, and just remember this is my opinions, so basically don't come for me in the comments because I might have said your favourite player is D tier or S tier or whatever. Okay, so the tiers we have is S tier, which is probably best players of the season, just fantastic all round. Maybe had a slight dip in form, but other than that, fantastic nevertheless. A tier is they were good, like they were so they were important to the team and they just played well. B tier is just sort of your mid, I guess, so they've been good, they've been bad, bit of both really. C tier is definitely have to improve and so they would need to improve for next season. And D tier is a season to forget, basically. So we're going to start off with one of our own, which is Harry Winks. For me personally, he's been one of the players of the season. I think personally, Harry Winks. I mean, definitely notable for his performances against Man City at home in January, and he's definitely been an important part of Jose Mourinho's time at Spurs, and he's definitely been an important player for that. So for me, consistently, he's been one of our best midfielders this season. Harry Winks is going in A tier. Next player is Davinson Sanchez. Now, for me, to be honest, he's been in and out of the team, but he's definitely showed that he's been, capable of doing well. I personally think he's still got a lot to offer at Spurs, and I'd like him to carry on and keep performing well. He's definitely had some bad performances, especially against the likes of Sheffield United away this season. Other than that, though, I thought he's been fantastic this year. Definitely shown more promise. I probably might go A tier, to be honest. He's definitely been, in my opinion, our best defender all season. When you compete with the likes of Toby Alderweireld, who's been, fantastic whenever he's been at Spurs, but I definitely think Davinson Sanchez has been class for us. Next up is Serge Aurier. Now, don't get me wrong, Serge is definitely, I understand he's not a fan favourite, and he's not what other... He's not been consistent for us, so he's going to go C tier. However, he's definitely, I think under Jose Mourinho, he's definitely showed promise that he could potentially stay at the club and be good. However, I do think that the right back area is definitely an area to improve on for us. Going forward, I think he's a class player. However, he can't exactly cross very well, or he can't defend very well, giving away penalties, such as the game against Liverpool. But I do reckon we need to strengthen in that area, and I think it's time to move on personally. So Serge Aurier is going to go C tier for me. Now, obviously famous for his hat-trick at Amsterdam, Lucas Moura. Now, since the restart, in my opinion, he's been our best player. Definitely up there with probably top 3 best players, I think, since the restart. He's been getting at it on the ball. He looks more hungry. He looks sharper. Hasn't scored much, but if you do watch Spurs, he's definitely shown that he's improved his play. He's been better at just making passes, making his runs, getting around people. So for me, he's going to go B tier, just because he wasn't particularly good. He's always been inconsistent, I think, for Spurs, which is a shame, because I believe he could be one of our best players if he really, if he gave everything he does since the restart for every single game, he'd definitely be one of my best players. And Jason Mourinho seems to prefer him over Stephen Bergwijn at the moment. So I definitely have got hope that he will continue this run of form and he will be good for us. Next up is Dennis Serchin, I think it is. I can't quite pronounce his name. So, I mean, he hasn't actually played. So, I mean, I won't include him, but I do think he has good promise to be a good left back for us. Vorm is going in D tier. Vorm, mate, I love you. You were a class player for us in, I think it was 16-17 when Lloris was in for a bit. You came in, you stepped in. Fair play to you. But you played one game for us, and that was Norwich in the FA Cup. And I have to say, mate, you were not good. Like, you should not be conceding the goal that you did. Like, this. I mean, you're gone now, so good pastures to whatever you go on to. But for me, D tier. Now, Eric Dyer has probably been one of the best players, for me, in my opinion, under Jose Mourinho. I mean, I know he was definitely taken a liking to by Jose. He wanted him at Man United. I'm going to go B tier, however, because under Poch, I mean, as Spurs fans know, he's known as the fridge. In playing as a CDM in the field wasn't particularly good for Poch, but now coming into the centre-back role with Jose, I believe he could be very good for next season and definitely an option for centre-back, which will be good for us considering the departure of Jan Vertonghen, and it might help, obviously, give pointers to Tanganga, who's just come through now, so hopefully he continues doing bits at the back. Eric Lamela is next, and he's like Marmite for Spurs fans. You either love him or hate him. As a person, I like him, I love his passion for the club, but he runs around like a headless chicken whenever he comes on, and he's not been particularly good. If he can just have a run of 10 games without getting injured, I reckon he could be good, but I mean, you've seen it in the games like against Bournemouth. He was supposed to be our creative player in that game. He just didn't do anything creative, to be honest. He just does ball rolls outside the box. Not particularly good, I don't think, this season. So, for me, he's going in C tier. Probably one of my favourite players at the moment is next, Stephen Bergwijn. Now, he's still adapting to the Premier League. However, I do believe that he has been probably not one of our best players, but he's definitely shown promise that he can be good for us. So, I'm probably going to put him in B tier because he's still adapting to the Prem. He's still, I guess, trying to make a name for himself here. Obviously, he came back from a very successful season with PSV last year and was doing well for them before he came to us in January. So I'm going to put Stephen Bergwijn in B tier. I believe he can be a very good player for us in the future, and I hope he stays and performs well. Next player is Giovanni Lo Celso. Now, for me, our signing of the season, personally, I think he's more of a Modric type player in a centre mid than an Eriksen type player. So that's definitely an area we need to look at to replace in the summer. However, I think Giovanni Lo Celso has definitely been a creative spark that we've needed. Obviously, he had a struggling time when he was injured for his first couple months at Spurs. However, he's definitely shown that he's probably one of the first names, if not the first name on the team sheet at the moment. So I'm going to put him... I probably will put him S tier, purely for how much of an impact he's had. Although I will put him A tier, purely for his goal contributions that he's shown us. I mean, he's not particularly had the best record. I think it's like 2 assists in the Prem. He did have a goal, but it turned out to be an own goal of, I think it was Michael Keane against Everton. But I do think next season he will be, in my opinion, our best player personally. I do think he will be one of the best players. Another player hindered with injuries, Ryan Sessegnon. For me, I really want Sessegnon to become our left back in the future. I really do want him to do well at Spurs. I think he can be like our sort of Ashley Cole sort of player. I know I just compared him to probably the best left back in Premier League history, but you know what? I'm a Spurs fan, I allow it. I personally think Sessegnon will eventually become a good for us. This season, however, he's not quite at the ground running. I will put him. He did score his debut. However, I'm going to put him in D tier purely for the game time he's got, his injuries, and whenever he's come on, he's not particularly shown to be a threat. Next player, Oliver Skipp, recently signed a new deal. Definitely a player Jose Mourinho wants to look to keep developing and wants to keep at the club. I think he will go out on loan for maybe half the season and then come back to perhaps perform in FA Cup games for us. However, I do believe that this season, whenever he's played, I think he's definitely been good. I think, in particular, the game against, I think it was Middlesbrough in the FA Cup, he was very good in the midfield, definitely commanded it well. Yeah, I will put him in C tier purely for the game time he's gotten, and I do believe he will become a great player for us in the future. Next up is a player who's we've had a very injury-ridden season, unfortunately. Moussa Sissoko. Last year, player of the season, fantastic player. This season, he's going C tier. I don't know what it is. He's been quite frustrating for us, I think, on the ball. He's been not his usual self. I mean, you see him gliding past players. He's definitely done that in some games. However, I do think this season he's definitely dipped a little bit. Hopefully he can come back for it. It's either that or we try sell him for as much as we can, as I do believe it could be his time to move on. However, I do think he's definitely still got a little bit more to offer perhaps, but for me, he's C tier this season. Next up is Troy Parrott. Now, Spurs fans all love Troy Parrott, want him to come through, want him to succeed, so do I. For me though, he's D tier. He's not had game time very much. I know he got an assist for his debut for Ireland, I think it was, for I think it was Euro qualifying. However, this is a Spurs tier list, not an Irish tier list, obviously. Personally, I think he will become a good player. I hope he goes out on loan. I think Millwall are trying to chase him at the moment. Hope he goes out on loan to Millwall, and yeah, hopefully he can perform there. And then eventually, when Harry Kane hangs his boots or potentially leaves, which I beg does not happen, he can hopefully take up the mantle of being the next striker to sort of come through the academy and do well for us. So Troy Parrott's going to go in D tier purely for the player and the playtime he's had. Right, next up, Heung-min Son. Now, for me, player of the season, I think. I mean, he won player of the season for Spurs this season as well, so definitely a reason for that as well. I believe this has definitely been his best campaign in terms of goals and assists. He had a broken arm, I think it was, for part of the season in the new year, so definitely had more to offer, obviously. However, for me, definitely our player of the season. I mean, it's Sonny. He's always been good in the Spurs shirt, I think. There's not been a year apart from his first season when he was still adapting, but since then he's been bad for the club. So Heung-min Son is going to be our first S tier player in the tier list. Next up is Ben Davies. Now, I will admit I wasn't too fond of Davies. However, this season, I think particularly in the restart, he's definitely been fantastic at left back. He's been consistent. He's been amazing at going forward, coming back, tracking back, just defending in general, I think. For me, he's definitely been... if we do not invest in a left back this summer, I will be happy to keep Ben Davies there and then for eventually Sessegnon to come through. For me, Ben's going to go B tier. However, that's due to some injury problems he had and that he wasn't particularly the player he is now under Pochettino at the start of the season. Next up is Juan Foyth. Now, I personally think we should move him on in the summer. It's nothing against him. I just believe that he won't develop well here, purely for the fact that Mourinho doesn't seem to be taking a liking to him at the moment. So I'll put him in D tier. He's not. I don't think he's played much at all, to be honest. From what I can remember, anyway. Spurs fans do correct me wrong, but I do believe that if an offer comes in, we did sell him. However, he could become a good centre back for us, or right back potentially. However, for now, I don't think he's not been definitely as good this season as he was last season on the Poch when he was getting in and out game time. So 1-4 is going in D tier. Next up is Paulo. Now, obviously not Gaza, as in Gascoigne, but Paulo Gazzaniga, the goalkeeper. I mean, he was definitely good when Hugo Lloris got injured against Brighton, and he continued to be in goal from then on, really. However, he sort of dipped a little bit. However, there were points where he was quite consistently good in the midfield. Not midfield? Goalkeeper. What? Okay, I'm thinking of Gascoigne. Yes, so Paulo Gazzaniga, I'm going to put him in C tier because I think he was definitely a very good backup to Hugo Lloris this season, and he's definitely shone moments where he's needed it to be. Right, Dele Alli. Now, when Jose Mourinho first came in, he looked rejuvenated, he looked back to his old self. I mean, however, I don't think he hasn't quite shown he can return yet. I think he still needs to get his head down, still needs to stop mucking around and actually focus on his football, which I know a lot of young players do struggle to do, but if you're going to be a good footballer, you need to learn to, I guess, ignore social media and just get on with the game. I mean, I'm going to put him in B tier because I do believe he was one of our best players at one point this season. However, he hasn't quite shown the promise that he did a few years ago. So, Dele Alli is going in B tier for me. Next up is Toby Alderweireld. Now, I really like Toby this season. I think he's definitely been brilliant for us. Obviously, he signed a new deal as well. I think it was at the start or a bit later on in the season. So that was good for him. Him and Davinson Sanchez have definitely been my favourite partnership this season at the back. I'm going to put Toby in B tier because... Or do I go A tier? I think actually I will go A tier. I think he's definitely been one of our best players. However, he's definitely had some moments to forget against like Sheffield United, etc. But I do believe he was definitely one of our, if not our best defender with Davinson Sanchez. So Toby Alderweireld goes A tier. Next up is Harry Kane. I mean, Spurs fans, Harry Kane, one of our own, always gets goals. For me, he's definitely had a massive injury problem. Although since the restart, he's probably been one of our best players as well. So I will put him. I will put him. I can't put him S tier purely for how long he's injured. Oh, I don't know actually. No, I will put him. No, I will put him S tier if Spurs fans know that what he does on the pitch, we definitely miss from other players. I mean, his passing ability as well for a striker is good. His assist game's getting better and better. Obviously, his goal scoring. If he wasn't injured, I reckon he could have potentially gotten the golden boot. However, obviously, the injury sort of hindered that chance. So, for me, he will go S tier, but just scraping it. Next up is Jan Vertonghen. Now, obviously a player who's now left the club, unfortunately. I mean, I still thought he had a year or two left in him. However, this season he's not particularly been the best. I know he's played at left back for a little bit under Jose. However, he's not the quickest. I think he's more suited to a left wing back role, personally, which is quite ironic if I say that he's not been the quickest player to go at left back. But I mean, Spurs v Dortmund, you know the game, you know what I'm talking about. However, I do believe his last season for us wasn't particularly a one to remember. I mean, he was good for some, but I mean, I'm going to put him B tier purely for the game time he got on, and with Sanchez and Alderweireld sort of stapling down that centre back position, it was sort of came obvious that his time at the club was definitely on the hinges. So Jan Vertonghen going B tier. Next up is definitely one of my favourite players this season, and probably at the moment, Tanganga. Now, obviously, big ask from Jose. Slapped him in straight away against Liverpool, and then within the first couple of minutes, goal line clearance. I mean, what can you expect? With Leslie King now on the coaching staff as well, I do believe he can be, and I think he will be, one of our best defenders within years to come. This season, obviously, he's still learning his craft as a centre back, and can also play left back and right back if needs be. Personally, I think for him being thrown in the deep end straight away, I think he's been amazing for us in that centre back position and in defence in general. So I'm going to put Tanganga in the A tier. Since the restart, Hugo Lloris has definitely been another key player for us. I mean, he's been making important saves left, right and centre. He's got the best save percentage, I think, in the league since the restart. Definitely been important for us. I mean, Hugo's obviously had his critics in the past. He's obviously been, I guess, looked over because of the likes of Ederson, Alisson, Dean Henderson in the league. However, I do believe he's still top 5 keepers in the league. I believe he's been probably, like I said, one of our best players since the restart, and I do hope he stays, even though I do believe that we should be looking at another goalkeeper for the future, potentially. However, I will be happy with Hugo to stay in between the sticks for next season. Gedson Fernandes, not going to talk about too much. He's not really shown glimpses of any quality yet. I mean, I might just need the pre-season to get himself underway before we buy him. Or if we buy him, I don't know if it's obligation or it's mandatory to buy him. So, for me, he's going to D tier. However, I believe he could be potentially an important squad player for us in the future. But at the moment, D tier for this season. Next up, finally, is a very controversial player in Tanguy Ndombele. Obviously, Spurs fans know it's not been his best season to start with. He's still adapting to the Premier League, I feel. Whether there's rumours of a bust-up with him and Jose, not sure. Obviously, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes at Spurs and what the hierarchy think of him. However, I do think he's definitely shown glimpses. I know not all Spurs fans would agree, but he's definitely shown glimpses of his quality to be in the Prem and to definitely be an important player for us in the future. I really hope he does not get sold, and I know he will not get sold. Watch me eat my own words now. Watch him go to Inter for like 45 million or something. But I do believe he will not get sold, and he will stay around the club. I mean, you look at players like Sissoko, Son, their first seasons in the Prem, well, for us anyway, weren't particularly good, and then they sort of kicked off around a couple of seasons later. So I do believe Tanguy will stay. However, this season has definitely been a season to forget for his debut season. And that's it. Obviously, left out Dennis Surgeon because he's not played. However, I do hope you enjoyed this tier list. Obviously, remember, this is my opinion. Don't come for me in the comments. Trust. This is how I think the players were this season. I do believe next season we will, hopefully, if the transfer window goes well, we can kick on from that and we can perform well. Other than that, it's been great doing this video. I actually really enjoyed this video. So remember, leave a like, comment, subscribe. Obviously, we don't want any like red being shown on your sub page. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn the notifications on, and remember, come on you Spurs.